up your engine! Now, people are always wondering how things work in cars. I'm going to explain how the technology works in this 2020 Toyota Supra. Beautiful looking car. And as I said before, when you look inside, you can see this is German technology. Well, actually, Austrian technology. It's a different country. These things are made in Austria. Same place that they make the Mercedes G-Wagon, the Magna Steyr Corporation. Now, to make this little roadster go, it has some very interesting technology. The most interesting is the speed mode that this thing has. As you go inside, there's a button here, and it says Sport. When you push the button, the dash says Sport. It is now in sport mode. Now, I know a lot of people think, oh, buttons, what do they do? It's just some scam to make you think it's going faster. Well, in this case, the sport mode actually does quite a few things. And the first thing you're going to notice with the sport mode is sound. So first I turn it off. Now it's in non-sport mode. You can hear the sound when I rev it up. And now we're going to turn the sport mode on. You can see it says sport. You certainly notice a difference. What's doing it? Well, I'll show you under the car. As we go under the car, you can see in the back of the muffler here, there's a little valve. It opens and closes that valve. Now here in Texas, there's no decibel limits. You can't make outrageous noises. There's a law that's just a general law. Some states have decibel limits. Check this thing with the decimal meter. It's not particularly high, but what it's doing is it's opening that valve up. You're getting more flow and giving it a little bit more power. Now, when I was younger, guys, muffler deletes, they cheat. They'd have a valve on the exhaust, and they'd have a cable. When they pulled the cable, like a choke cable, it opened up so you had no muffler, and it was straight exhaust, loud as can be, which is illegal. This isn't straight exhaust, it's just modifying it. Turn that switch off, goes back to normal. But that's part of the sport package. Changes the exhaust a little. But that's not all it does. Pushing the sport button affects under the hood, too. Changes the computer settings. You get a sharper throttle response. Computers can do magical things. You get more acceleration. Of course, you're going to get worse gas mileage. You don't have to run it in sports mode all the time, but when you do, you get more power. And you're going to use more gas, of course. And it also makes quicker shifts. It affects the transmission to give you more acceleration. And at the same time, it also tightens up the suspension system, which is also electronically controlled. So it can handle the extra power and speed. Of course, yeah, it's going to ride a little bit rougher. This is a two-seat roadster. It's going to tighten all that up. You'll feel the bumps more, but you'll have better handling. It's an active differential, electric control, and multi-plate clutches to control the power to each wheel. That controls the lateral torque when you're cornering, so you have better stability. Think of it as posi traction on steroids. When GM came up with that ages ago, the posi traction, so they could get their muscle cars to really zoom around without just spinning and not being in control, this is that on steroids with electric motors, multi-plate clutches, all controlled by computers to keep the lateral torque just where you want it. In the case of the Supra, that sports button isn't just for show. Believe me, I tried it out. The thing handles, flies. It's really a joy to drive. And yes, it's extremely high-tech German technology. We'll see how long it lasts in the long run. It's a brand new car here. It sure is fun to drive now. Speaking of German technology, this is a straight 6 BMW engine. It puts out 320-something horsepower. So it's got a lot of power. But the BMW version of this, which is the Z4, puts out 380-something horsepower. Now, why is that the case? The BMW Z4, it has the same exact engine, it has the same transmission. Why does it have a lot of horsepower? The BMW straight 6 engine, which is the same engine, 2 turbochargers on it. It's a straight 6 engine, but it has 2 turbochargers on it. So it puts out more horsepower. And the 2021 Supra is going to have the twin turbos on it if you want. They didn't offer it in 2020, only in the BMWs. They do that. Now, the BMW Z4 is a convertible. This is a hardtop. Convertibles always weigh more. The way they build them, and of course, the BMW convertible is one of those metal convertible tops. So it's heavier. It's heavier than this hood is. So even though the BMW Z4 has more horsepower. This weighs less, and it's relatively close. This is like 0.2 of a second slower 0 to 60 than the convertible is with all that extra horsepower. So it's one of these things you'd have to decide, do I want to lose 0.2 of a second 0 to 60 and have one turbocharger? Or do I want to go whole hog and gain that 0.2 of a second 0 to 60 by having the complexity of two turbochargers on the same engine? All I have to say is I work on BMWs. I've been a mechanic for 52 years. I had to change the dual turbos on a BMW. They do have a tendency of wearing out faster. You got two of them, there's more strain, and that was like a $12,000 job. They're not cheap to work on, so maybe it's a smart idea to only have one turbocharger and not throwing two on. It's not the fastest thing out there by any stretch of the imagination. The BMW, which is a little faster than this, goes 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. The 2020 Corvette goes 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. So you're not going to be beating them in a drag race, no matter how big you put an engine in this. This is a two-seat roadster for having a lot of fun in. Now, for safety reasons or whatever, these are electronically limited to go 155 miles an hour. Take the Corvette. It isn't. It'll go 194 miles an hour. So if you're going to the racetrack, you're not going to be able to keep up with one of those things. This is really a lot of fun, and really, come on now, in the real world, you're not supposed to go over the speed limit, which the top in Texas here is 80 miles an hour when you drive out to El Paso. If you're racetracking, it's a different ballgame. Other technologies you might be interested in? Well, you're probably really interested in the transmission. Yes, it is an automatic transmission. But just like the car that's built in Austria, so it's a transmission. It is a ZF 8HP, which stands for 8 High Performance. They use these in a lot of vehicles. They're fascinating transmissions. This isn't some exotic one-off job that they make a few of. For example, in 2017, the ZF company in Austria sold 3.1 million of these ZF 8-speed transmissions. That is a lot. And it isn't one of those exotic dual clutch transmissions where it's actually a manual transmission with two clutches, but the computer pushes the clutches and shifts it. This is a traditional automatic transmission. It does have a torque converter, and it's got 8 speeds. They seem to have perfected these things. I was totally impressed by how this thing went. If you wanted to go in normal mode, you couldn't even feel the thing shift gears because there's 8 of them. They're closer together. When you put it in sport mode, it took off like mad, but even then, the shifts were extremely smooth. It wasn't some it was smooth. They are well-built transmissions. And yes, it's German, or I should say Austrian technology. They are extremely complex. They cost a king's ransom to repair when they finally do break down. But they are not notorious for breaking down until they get a lot of miles on them. We'll take it for a spin and I'll show you. Now here's normal non-sport mode. You can feel it shift. Well, you can't really. Look at that. Unbelievably smooth. There we go, it's in sport mode, and away we go. You can hear and feel the power. And with the suspension tightened up, man, this thing handles like a dream. It just goes and handles. No problem controlling it whatsoever. And yeah, you're gonna feel the bumps. It's a roadster. Realize I'm doing all this with one hand on the steering wheel. Total control, no hands. It is one stable vehicle. Now you can tell I was driving it hard because those cooling fans are running. You see the car's turned off, yet the fans are still running. If you have a car that isn't designed right and you beat it hard and turn it off, the residual heat will cause problems with the engine. This is going to run those fans until it gets an acceptable range. Then they turn themselves off. This is really a technological marvel. There's no arguing that. And now you can understand some of the technology behind this Toyota Supra. You're looking for a screaming fast roadster, and you've got a few spare change in your pocket. You want to shell out for one of these things? The technology is there if that's what you're looking for. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Random person says, hello, Scotty. I got an 09 Hyundai Accent. I think I might have a short. My driver's side headlamp is dim and sometimes the driver's side blinker doesn't work. Suggestions? Yeah, go to that side and check the ground wires. The ground wires ground both the headlights and the blinkers, and if both of them are acting up, odds are the ground wire is gone bad. Realize you need power and ground in a 12-volt system. You got to have 12-volt positive, but you also have 12-volt negative, or if you don't have a complete circuit, nothing's going to work. And if the ground is getting weak, things will get dim and won't work right. Odds are you just have a bad ground wire. Go there, check the black ground wire. A lot of times you'll see where it plugs into the body. Take it off, get some emery paper, make it shiny new metal, bolt it back on. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.